Configuring Fortigate logs. In a Fortigate unit, there are different kinds of logging options to be able to monitor and control your network traffic. Let's open our Fortigate unit and navigate into Log and Report. And first, we will be checking our forward traffic. This shows you all traffic that is going through your internal Fortigate ports and interfaces. If you double click on any line, you will see a lot of useful information that can help you debug and diagnose your traffic. You can see your source interface, destination interface. This can be used to diagnose routing issues. You also see your source IPs, your NAT IPs, and your destination IP and port. You also see the action that happened of this policy. Simple actions you can see here, like server reset, client reset, traffic timeout, and firewall denies, firewall accepts. So it's very useful for you if you are troubleshooting an issue. You see why exactly is this traffic being denied? Is it because of a policy violation? Is it because it got caught by the antivirus sensor or the IPS sensor? A big portion of this will be heavily used on a day-to-day basis. Also, on the forward traffic, you are able to filter your log results by adding a filter in here. You can add things like action and see different action. You can only filter on denied traffic. You can filter only on a specific source IP or a destination IP address. And you can also filter on a specific board or service by choosing your destination board. And this way, you can break down your log result only to the specific traffic flow that you are trying to diagnose or trying to monitor. You can also filter on VPN traffic by adding a VPN filter. You can just type star to put all traffic from all VPNs, or you can just specifically define our VPN traffic that we created. And in the same way, you're able to see if this traffic is going through or not. I want to also show you how you can customize your view. So you can remove unneeded columns and add others if necessary. So you can click the gear icon in here. We know that we are not using this archive table. We can remove this and we can add action. Click apply. This way we can see our actions in the main display for easier diagnose. We remove this. It's going to be a lot easier for us to diagnose traffic with the accept. In here, we can also move it around. This way, it's much easier to view. So I want to show you how you can configure your login options to meet your needs. First, let's go into log settings and see which options we have. So now we are looking into our disk space. This is the default login system, is to log your firewall events and your traffic events on your local disk. As we see here in my specific unit, I have a 24 gigabyte disk, and it's used to log all the network traffic. We go down a little bit, we'll see an option to customize our events. Right now, it's set to log all traffic. But if we want to customize it, we can remove specific types of traffic, such as VPN, Wi-Fi, HA events. You can turn off anything that you don't want and keep the rest. We also have an option for local traffic in here. Local traffic is disabled by default. In Fortigate definition, the local traffic is any traffic destined for the Fortigate interfaces itself. So for example, we open our Genius tree again. From our design PC, when we try to ping the gateway for our design subnet, which is an interface, VLAN interface on the Fortigate, this is considered local in policy logging. And this is disabled by default. So if I were to open my design PC, and if I were to ping my gateway, which is 192.168.0.1, this is the Fortigate interface for VLAN 25. I'm able to ping this traffic. But if I try to look for this traffic in the FortiGate itself, for example, if I go to forward traffic and try to add a filter and put the destination IP address in here, and if I put enter, I'm not able to see this traffic in here at all, even though I was able to ping. Therefore, this local traffic is not enabled by default. Also in here, there is a specific logging window for local traffic. I don't see anything in here. So in order for us to see local traffic, we need to enable this log system by going into log settings and enable either only allow traffic or allowed, denied. We can leave all them enabled for now. And now if I go back to my design PC and I bring the same interface again, but if I go to local traffic now, I see all the traffic for my HTTPS session that I am accessing right now through the browser. I'm also seeing the ping request that I just did from the design PC into the design interface. But what if we try something that is not allowed? Can we see this traffic as well? Let's try it out. If we go back to our interface list, we know that only port 1 and port 3 have SSH enabled in the allow access statement in the interface configuration. So port 2 only has ping allowed, and same for our VLAN interfaces. So let's try to SSH to this interface on port 2 using this IP address and see if we can get to it using SSH, or if we can see the logs that show us that we cannot. So from my Ubuntu instance, if I try to fire the session SSH admin at 10.10.100.1, this is my interface on port 2 that currently has no SSH enabled. I'm not getting any response on my Ubuntu instance. The traffic is timing out. Now I want to go back to log and report local traffic. And in here, I see this session coming from 10.10.100.3 going into my 10.10.100.1 on board SSH. To make it easier for us, let's add a column in here for the action. I see the action is denied because there is no allow statement to enable this traffic to go through. So the way we can fix this, we can go back to our FortiGate. And if I do config system interface and I do edit port 2 and I do show, I see that only allow access is ping. So we're going to copy this statement and just add to it SSH. Now if I do a show one more time, I have ping and SSH enabled. Just need to get out of the interface now to save the settings. And now port 2 has SSH enabled. If I go back to my instance and I try the command again, if I put my password in here, I'm able to log in to the firewall after I enable the allow access for SSH on the interface. So local in policy is very useful to allow you to troubleshoot traffic distant for the FortiGate interface directly, and forward traffic allows you to diagnose traffic distant for different IP addresses than the FortiGate interfaces. Now to be able to better understand local traffic as well, let's go under System Feature Visibility. And this is a feature that is disabled by default. You need to come here and enable local in policy and hit apply. This will refresh the display in here, and under policy you will find a new option called local in policy. If you expand this, you will see that once you enable allow access on a specific interface like port 2, it adds up a local policy in here to allow this traffic. So it shows that sales has ICMP enabled. It also has SSH enabled along with port 1 and port 3. And you also see the other default stuff such as routing protocols, SNMP, DHCP, and IKE ports for VPN. So the local in policy shows you all these protocols that are distant for the FortiGate interfaces itself. And the way you can modify or add new things in here, you can only do it via CLI. So let's see how we can do this. Let's go back to our main screen and we're gonna do the command config firewall local-n-policy. And if we do a show in here, all the default policies do not show in here, but you can create a new one by clicking edit and define a number, and you can define which interface, which addresses, and which schedule. You can enable your interfaces management from a specific IP addresses under a specific schedule, but this option is only available using the command line. There is no equivalent for it on the GUI. We have to do it from this screen. Let's go back to our log and report, log settings, and I want to show you the other options. So we have an option here to send logs to FortiAnalyzer or FortiManager running FortiAnalyzer. FortiAnalyzer, as we discussed before, is a central logging for all your Fortigate units. Let's say we have 10 different Fortigate units. It's not practical to go under every firewall and check the forward traffic or the local traffic. So you can use a device like FortiAnalyzer, either a physical device or a virtual machine, and you can send all your logs to this FortiAnalyzer or FortiManager running logging system. And this will be a central logging system where you can view logs from all these devices and filter on traffic using all these devices at once. So this is a very useful option. We will be discussing how to integrate your FortiGates with FortiAnalyzer and FortiManager in the FortiGate Advanced course. But for here, we can just see that we can put an IP address in here for our FortiAnalyzer unit, and then it will use the APIs in between to send traffic. Just make sure you change the traffic to real time so you can see it as soon as possible. And also, if your FortiAnalyzer lives in AWS or lives on the public, make sure you enable SSL encryption so your logs doesn't send in clear text. And finally, we have a syslog option. And syslog allows us to send traffic to a central login system using syslog. And we will be discussing how to integrate your FortiGate with syslog with products such as Splunk and FortiAnalyzer in the advanced course as well. And the way you do it, you just enter the IP address in here, 192.168.210.2. In this way, all the syslog traffic will be sent to this specific syslog server, which is very useful also to monitor and diagnose traffic from multiple Fortigate units or a single Fortigate units using a centralized syslog server. Now the Fortigate is able to send traffic to multiple syslog servers at once. You only limit it to one IP address. You can put the command config log syslog daemon settings, and if you do a command show, we will see that the single liner on the GUI that we configured. But also, if you end, you can put config log syslog2 settings. And if you show in here, there is nothing enabled. But you can configure additional servers in here by putting the command set status enable set server 172.23.1.1. And in this way, we can configure multiple syslog servers from the CLI. And the number of syslog servers you can define is usually 3 or 4. You only get the first one in the GUI, but to define additional syslog servers, you have to do it in here. In the same way, you can go to config log syslog daemon, and I have up to 4 servers I can define. So I have syslogd, syslogd2, syslogd3, syslogd4. And in the same way, if I want to configure FortiAnalyzer, I can put config log FortiAnalyzer setting. And if I want to do multiple ones, I can do config log FortiAnalyzer, FortiAnalyzer Cloud, FortiAnalyzer 2, and FortiAnalyzer 3. So I can define 3 different FortiAnalyzer instances and 4 different syslog servers from the CLI, but the GUI is limited to only one syslog server and one FortiAnalyzer instance. Now let's look into our event log. An event shows you information not related to network traffic, but related to configuration changes and different statistics and performance reports. For here, we can see different users that did edit log.syslog setting, and it shows you exactly what had changed and which user interface did the user use, what time. We can see DHCP statistics. We can see admin logging sessions. So this is very useful for diagnosing user access and FortiGate configuration changes. Pretty good for auditing and things like that. And finally, we have our logs for our antivirus, web filtering, SSL, and IPS. Those are all UTM features, so they are separate from the normal traffic flow logs. And this is useful to check if you have any UTM features enabled. Later in this course, we will be discussing how to enable these features, and we will be able to see different meaningful data in here. But for now, we just configured our forward traffic display, we changed our columns, we changed our displays, we configured our local traffic to log the denies and allowed traffic on the FortiGate interfaces, and we configured a syslog and FortiAnalyzer setting using the GUI and the CLI. That's how you configure logs on a FortiGate unit. Thank you for watching.